Hi, everybody. Welcome to the fourth episode of Blind Android Users. This is Dennis. I'm with Warren and Austin. And this is part two of how to set up an Android device. This is our fourth episode. I'm not sure. Warren, do you have an app of the week this week?
An app of the week. I am not sure that I have an app of the week.
Okay.
However, we will have something special.
But we will have something special in this episode. So do stay tuned for our surprise. And Warren, you're going to show us how to finish setting up an Android phone. Is that right?
That's right. Austin, where are you hiding at?
I'm in India, so I'm not hiding anywhere. And I would like I would like to welcome our listeners to the first episode of the year. So Happy New Year.
That's right. This is the first episode of the year, and Happy New Year to everyone. Dennis, is it nice where you're at, or you blanketed in snow?
No snow. It's about 34 degrees here. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you're not freezing. Too bad. I mean, there are parts of the country that are colder. So enjoy the weather, whatever it may be.
Well, good, guys. So last week, or the last time that we were talking about setting up an Android device, and of course, I deliberately decided to use an older phone just because when you're setting up that phone, maybe you get something that is not up to par. And the whole idea was to prove that holding down the two fingers works every single time. And so if you're not sure as to whether your phone that you just got has Oreo or better, then your best bet is to use those two fingers hold down once the phone is in the has reached the setup screen. And for a blind person, my tech is always, when you turn that phone on, wait for about 45 minutes to a minute or thereabouts so that you make sure that it's finally on the welcome screen to where you can put those two fingers down and enable accessibility. So the last time we had talked about setting it up, and we've gotten to where I put in my email address and all of that, and we were on the screen, this screen here.
If you also use a personal or exchange email address, you can add it now.
So here, if you want to add something like an exchange, or maybe you have an old Yahoo account, or maybe even a Juno account, you could add that here. Now, so if we're not going to add any of that,
not checked, radio button, personal, IMAP, pop, Yahoo, Outlook.com, etc.
So you could check that to add any of those.
Not checked, radio button, exchange, your work email address.
That.
Not checked, radio button, not now, add later in Gmail app. Not checked, radio button, exchange, your work email.
So I'm going to tap on radio button. Not now, I'll add later.
Next button.
And so at the bottom, there's a next button.
Sec. Google Play Store.
And once you tap on that next button,
backups include apps, app data, system settings, and Wi-Fi passwords.
This is a screen that tells you about what's going to happen because it's going to back up your apps and things like that. So when next time you decide to get a better phone or something like that, you could actually choose to bring your apps from this phone that we're just setting up. So I'm going to scroll up. So in scrolling up, if this were a video, here's what I was saying to myself. It is easier for sighted people to show people how to do things because you can see the video. But when you're trying to teach a blind person how to swipe or how to scroll up and you're not there holding their hand and showing it to them, it's kind of really hard to describe what you're trying to communicate. So for me, I always describe it as a brushing instead of, swipe, or people say swipe or flick or whatever. If you're coming from the Fruitvale land, the iOS land, you flick or whatever. Android, we use words like swipe and things like that. But someone that has never had that opportunity or whatever is not going to know exactly what you mean by the word swipe or flick. And so for me, I try to use it as brush. So you think of it like you're trying to clean something like that, so you cut, that's the swipe. So, but in this case, I scrolled up with two fingers. So I put two fingers in the middle and I kind of like, brush my finger up and it scrolls the page toward the bottom. Now, if I did that from the top, if I put my finger in the middle and roll my fingers down, that would scroll me to the top of the phone. So that's what that means. So we have a one finger swipe or two finger scroll. And so I've scrolled upward, and I'm going to find
next button.
The next button.
Protect your phone.
So this screen talks about phone protection.
Learn more. Checked. Protect this device. And require a PIN, pattern, or password to unlock the screen checkbox.
So here you can choose, if you don't want someone to just grab your phone and be able to get into it, you can choose to include a pattern or a PIN, so that only you know what that PIN is.
Back button. Next button.
So I'll go to next.
Choose screen lock.
And here we're going to choose how we're going to unlock that screen. So our choices
choose screen lock. Pattern, because you've turned on an accessibility service, your device won't use your screen lock to enhance data encryption.
Now, as a blind person, I don't know about you, but I don't want to do patterns because I may mess up next time. So I usually choose, PIN. And if you have a modern phone, then besides the PIN, there's always, the fingerprint reader and also a face unlock if that phone supports it. But this one doesn't. So we're just going to choose PIN.
PIN, because you've turned on an accessibility service, your device won't use your screen lock to enhance data encryption.
So I tap here to select a PIN.
Password, because you've turned on an accessibility service. Password, because you've turned on an accessibility service, your device won't use your screen lock to enhance data encryption.
So there's password.
Back button.
And so you got to choose one of those.
Password, because you've turned on an accessibility.
So I'm going to choose
PIN, because you've turned on an accessibility service, your device won't use your screen lock to enhance data encryption. Choose your PIN. Plug in a headset to hear password key.
Now, so here's the problem. If you're setting up this and you don't have, a headset, because this is running Android 5 or lower, or actually, or maybe even Android 6 or lower, you're not going to be able to hear your passwords without plugging in a headset. And so what I am going to do, I'm just going to put in 1111 for now. And if this were my real phone, then later on I could change it. But so I'm going to just, because I know where the 1 is, so I'm going to do 4 ones and then tap on next to reconfirm. So here I go. And it's just going to say dot.
Dot, dot.
And I let go. I tap it again.
Dot, dot.
I do it again.
Dot, dot.
One more.
Dot, dot.
Now I'm going to find the next, which is toward the bottom right.
Next, plug in a headset to hear password keys spoken aloud. Confirm your PIN.
So it takes me to the next screen and asks me to confirm that password that I just put in, the PIN that I just put in. Of course, I put 1111. And if I got it right, then we'll be good to go. So I'm going to try doing that right now.
Dot, 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 dot.
One more.
Dot, dot.
And I'm going to click on next, or is it done?
Next. Settings. Keyboard hidden.
All right. So it looks like we got it.
Checked. Show all notification content radio button.
So the next button, or the next screen, I should say, is the screen that says, hey, when you have your phone, how do you want notifications to show? Do you want them to show every notification that you get, even on your lock screen, or not? Now, I personally don't like my notifications showing, so I usually have chosen the option not to show my notification, but you have that choice.
Not checked. Hide sensitive notification content radio button.
You could choose to hide the sensitive one if you have some baby out there you don't want someone to know you're going out with. You could choose that. And then the next one.
Not checked. Don't show notifications at all radio button.
And that is usually the one that I choose.
Don't show notifications at all. Checked.
So I tap that and it checks that. So now.
Next button.
Next.
Google app.
The next screen talks about.
The feed uses data from your Google account to help you through your day.
Okay.
Learn more. by choosing, yes, I'm in. You are turning on the feed for worker@gmail.com. You can turn off the feed at any time by going to Google App Settings, period.
So I'm going to scroll up with the 2 fingers, put 2 fingers in the middle, and then brush it upwards. You hear it making that sound. Okay, now I'm going to put my finger near the bottom right and find the next or more, whatever the case may be.
Next button.
There's the next.
Device unlocked. Home screen 1 of 0.
So we are now on the home screen. So you think of this as your desktop on your computer. So we are now on the desktop or home screen when we're talking about mobile stuff. So here is where you find all the icons like you find on your desktop. If you're using a Windows computer, you're going to find things like My Computer or Recycle Bin or, things like that. And you can add more to it as time goes on, the same thing here. So what we have here on our setup screen, or rather home screen, is we have some icons. So what you do is put your finger down and just move around, or you swipe like, brush right or left.
Google search button.
I just brush right. That's swiping right.
Voice search button.
There's a voice search.
Folder, Google.
There's a folder, Google.
Play Store.
Play Store. That's a very important one because this is where you go to get your apps and things like that. Want something like WhatsApp, or you want something like Facebook or whatever the case may be. You have to go to the Play Store in order to get that. So now that we're on our home screen, we are using something that is called a launcher. So just think of that as, like the Windows Explorer. Windows Explorer, when you use the Windows Explorer, it makes it possible for you to see the desktop. So the launcher is something kind of similar to that, in layman's terms. Now that we're on a home screen, when we want to check what we have something called a notification. So here's where, maybe someone sends you an email, or when you finish setting up, then you check in the notification, and we check that notification shade. We pull it down by putting 2 fingers at the top, just literally put them upside of the phone on the top bar of the phone, and then brush down. Watch.
Notification shade.
I just brushed down with 2 fingers and it says notification shade. Now, if I put my finger near the top.
13 new messages, July 13th, 20, plus 122,000 less than # greater than your Google verification code is 651,000.
So see there, that's one of the notifications that I have. And, if I move my finger downward.
Snooze notifications button.
I could snooze them.
Double tap to select. Check your back cover, 5:24 p.m. Make sure it is well fitted.
So that one is coming from Motorola because, this is one of those phones that actually you could pull off the back and things like that. So that's my notification.
Check your back cover, 5:24 p.m. Make sure it is well fitted.
Okay. So now that I am in the notification shade, I want us to go next to the quick panel or the control panel. So think of it like on a computer, you have the control panel. This is where all the magic happens. You can go in there and change things the way we want things to appear and things like that. So here we swipe down again with 2 fingers.
Quick settings.
And it says quick settings. So the steps of getting to your quick settings or control panel, you swipe down with 2 fingers, it takes you to notification. Swipe down again, it takes you to quick panel. Now, if you want to skip the process of going through the notification to get to, or in other words, you want to skip straight, you don't want to go to the notification shade, but you want to go straight to the quick panel, then the way you do that is by swiping down with
Google
3
Play
fingers.
Services error.
So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get out of the quick panel, the control panel. And how I get out of that is finding something at the bottom of my screen, at the bottom of the glass, right dead in the middle. We have 3 buttons. The one in the middle is called the home key.
Home button.
That says home. Now
double tap to select. Double tap and hold to long press.
To the left of that, if I move my finger slightly to the left, it's going to be the back key.
Back button.
And then
double tap to select. Double tap and hold to long press.
I'm still holding my finger, so I'll move back to the right.
Home button.
I'll move to the right.
Double tap overview button.
And then overview. So the 3 buttons that we have at the bottom are called navigation buttons. So we have home key in the middle, and to the left of that is the back, and then to the right of the home key is the overview. Now I'm going to hit the home key.
Home button.
And so that would take me
home screen 1 of 1.
Take me to my desktop or my home screen. Now, what the back key means is if I open an app, for example, and I'm working in it, I tap on some portion of the app that I'm working in, and I want to go back to the previous screen, then I tap the back key. It takes me back to the previous screen that I was working in. Now, the overview, however, is like recent apps, the apps that you recently opened. So that's what that's what the overview does. When you tap on it, it takes you to the most recent things that you've used. So think of it like your Microsoft Word or Notepad. When you open up Notepad and you do that Alt F and you go down, you're going to see some of the files that you have opened. So it's kind of likened to that. All right. So let's go back to the quick panel because it's important, and most especially, so I'm going to skip that step of swiping down with 2 fingers to go to the notification shade. Instead, I'm going to swipe with 3 fingers from the very top to get me straight to the quick panel or the control panel. While I'm in the quick settings, below it, you could still find the notification. But let's explore what we have here in the quick settings. I'm going to put my finger near the top left corner.
Emergency calls only, 5:56 p.m., Wednesday, January 6th.
Okay, I'm going to move my finger down.
Display brightness seek control, 50%.
And I'm going to move my finger down.
Wi-Fi signal full.
I'll move my
Double
finger
tap to
down
select.
again.
Connected to the mesh. Do not disturb off.
I'm moving my finger down.
Mobile no. No signal, no. Flashlight off. Location reporting on.
Now, here in the quick panel, things are arranged, like in a row. So you got, maybe like.
Connected to the mesh.
If I move my finger to the right.
Bluetooth.
There's Bluetooth.
Double tap to select.
If I move my finger to below the Bluetooth.
Airplane mode off.
There's airplane mode.
Double tap to select. Location reporting on.
Okay, there's something here that's very important for a blind person, and that's the screen rotation. Because by default, it is set to auto-rotate. In other words, if I slide my finger around or move my hand around, it will flip me into a landscape mode. And sometimes that becomes very problematic because it's hard to find where your buttons are. So for instance, like the home key would be flipped over, to the side and things like that.
Display brightness, see control. Show profile.
What we want to do is always make sure that we are in what we call the portrait mode. In other words,
airplane mode off. Location reporting. Flashlight off.
So there's flashlight.
Screen will rotate automatically.
So we want to tap here.
Screen is now locked in portrait orientation.
Therefore, now we have our screen locked to portrait mode. So it's not going to be flipping us around into landscape mode or something like that. Now, on the top right corner, we need to find something called settings or open or system settings.
Show profile.
That's on the top right corner. I'm going to move my finger slightly to the left.
Settings button.
And there's a settings.
Double tap to home screen 1 of 1. Settings.
When I tap on settings, I am now in my settings. So think of this part also like your control panel where you see all the things that you can make all the fine changes and things like that. So let's explore and see what we have here in the settings. Starting from the top, here's what we've got in settings.
Wireless and networks.
Wireless and network.
Wi-Fi.
Then it's Wi-Fi.
Bluetooth.
Bluetooth.
Data usage.
Data usage.
More.
More. Now, in this more, when you tap here, you're going to find things like VPN or APNs. We'll touch on those once we get to those network connectivity issues. So now let's swipe right again or move our finger down.
Device.
Device.
Display.
Display.
Sound and notification.
Now, I want to go back to display because this is important.
Display.
If you are starting for the first time, this is your first time of getting into Android, by default, the screen would shut off in like 30 seconds. So if you're starting as a new learner, it makes sense to go in here.
Display.
And I just double tap to open that. We need to go in here and change it from that 30 seconds to something more manageable. I generally suggest to my students, hey, put it on 5 minutes. In that way, you have ample time to do whatever you want to do. The screen is not shutting down on you or shutting off on you just because you put it to the side to grab something. So let's find the place that talks about the screen timeout.
Adaptive brightness. Optimize brightness level for available light. On. Switch.
What this means is that if I'm upside, it's gonna turn down the brightness of the screen so that it makes it easier for me to see, if you can see, or if you're in a dark place, it will kind of adjust the screen brightness as well. So adaptive brightness is always good to leave it on so it adapts to the environment that you find yourself in. Let's go down.
Wallpaper.
Now, wallpaper,
Double tap to select.
The kind of wallpaper that you want to choose. We have those on Windows too.
Daydream, clock, sleep, after 2 minutes of inactivity.
So here it says
Double
sleep
tap to
after
select.
2 minutes. But the reason why it's saying after 2 minutes, because my account is retrieving some settings from my account because I signed in with my account. But if you haven't, or this is your first time or whatever, it's going to be 30 seconds. So when you tap here,
Alert sleep, cancel. Showing items 1 to 7 of 7.
let's explore the choices here in the sleep timer.
Not checked, 15 seconds.
There's 15 seconds.
Not checked, 30 seconds.
That would by nature be the default.
Not checked, 1 minute.
1 minute,
Checked, 2 minutes.
2 minutes,
Not checked, 5 minutes.
5 minutes,
Not checked, 10 minutes.
10 minutes,
Not checked, 30 minutes.
30,
Cancel button.
or cancel. And I'm going to just
Not checked, cancel
tap
button.
on cancel. If I keep
Sleep.
swiping,
Not checked, 15 seconds.
it moves me back to the top. You see how that goes?
Not checked, 30 seconds. Not checked, 1 minute. Checked, 2 minutes. Not checked, 5 minutes. Not checked, 10 minutes. Not checked, 30 minutes. Cancel button.
Now that is swiping, but if I like to use what we call Explore by touch, and I tend to suggest this to people the most. So I just put my finger down and what?
Not checked, 30 minutes. Not checked, 10 minutes.
I glide my finger up,
Double tap to top. Not checked, 5 minutes.
glide my finger up,
Double checked, 2 minutes.
glide my finger up,
Not checked, 1 minute.
glide my finger up,
Not checked, 30 seconds.
glide my finger up.
Sleep. Not checked, 15 seconds.
Okay, now I'm going to put my finger toward the bottom, find the cancel, or this is the time we could use our back key. Now remember, the back key is one of the 3 navigational buttons found near the bottom of the screen. In the middle is the home, and to the left of that is the back key, while to the right of the home key is the overview. Now I need to find the one that says back.
Home button.
It says home. Now I'm
Double
going to
tap
move.
to select. Double tap and hold to long press.
Now I could move my finger to the left and find the back key, but if you like to swipe, then you swipe left.
Back button.
See, it says back. But if I put my finger down
Home button.
and I move my
Double
finger
tap
to the left,
select. Double back button.
see the same thing. So I'm going to
Double
tap,
tap to select.
double tap
Back
here,
button.
and that takes me back to the previous screen. Now, that's what the,
Back button. When device is rotated, stay in portrait view.
okay,
Adaptive brightness. Wallpaper.
there we go. I think I
Back
didn't go
button.
back.
Settings.
There we go.
Data usage. More.
I'm just moving my finger
Device.
down.
Display. Sound and notification.
This is where you can go
Double
in
tap
to
to
change
select.
your sounds. For instance, if you want to change your
Sound
ringtone,
and
let's quickly do that. So let's explore what we have in sounds. And we have in sounds because this is one of the first things that probably your ringer is going to be, so annoying to you. You don't like the way it sounds. So you go in here where it says sounds and notification. You can change your notification sounds, and you can also change your ringtone. So let's go to ringtones, for example, and see what ringtones we can change or how to change our ringtone.
Media volume.
That's
Double tap to alarm volume.
I'm going down.
Ring volume. Seat control, 71%.
That's the ringer.
Also vibrate for calls, on, switch.
Go down.
Do not disturb. Phone ringtone, moto.
So I'm going to tap
Double
here
tap
where
to
it talks about ringtone.
Alert phone ringtone, cancel, okay. Showing items 21 to 30 of 36.
So it's telling me there are a total of 36 ringtones here I could choose from. I'm going to put my finger near the top.
Phone ringtone, checked, not checked, natural.
So if I want to
Double
hear
tap
what
to toggle.
natural sounds like, I tap here. I put my finger down.
Not checked, organic.
Tap here. I'll go down again.
Not checked, Pixis. Not checked. Not checked, Pegasus.
So you get the drift here. Now,
OK button.
at the bottom, there's an OK
Cancel button.
or there's a cancel.
Default notification ringtone, moto.
So that's how you choose your ringer. And I just
Phone, seat
turned down
control,
my volume.
80%.
Okay.
Back button.
Now I'm going to go back to the
button.
previous screen.
Settings.
And I scroll up with two fingers, putting them in the middle and scrolling up. Now here,
More. Display. Sound and
So
notification. Back button.
we've
Settings.
done with sounds,
Battery. Storage and USB.
storage, and
Double tap to
USB.
select.
This is where you go in to see how much storage you have and things like that.
Memory.
Memory, you
Double
see how
tap to
much
select.
memory you have.
Personal.
Personal. I scroll
Location.
up again. Location,
Security.
security.
Accounts.
Now, under security, remember, this is where we have things like our PIN. If I wanted to change that PIN from 1111 to something else, I'll go into the security area to change that.
Google.
Google, that's
Double tap
where
to
you can
select.
go in and see the accounts associated with the phone.
Motorola privacy.
Motorola privacy. Now, each manufacturer may have one thing of theirs that is particular to that company, just like Motorola has some things that are particular to Motorola here. Let's
Motorola ID. System.
And then the
Date and
system,
time.
date and time.
Double accessibility.
Accessibility. This is where you go in and see all the accessibility related
Showing items
stuff.
one.
And here in accessibility, we have
Talkback on.
talkback is on,
Switch access off.
switch access for people
Double
who
tap to
don't have
select.
too much movement and they could use like a joystick or something like that.
System.
System,
Captions off.
caption for
Double
the
tap to select.
hard of hearing.
Magnification gestures off.
Those who have a little
Double
bit of
tap to
sight and
select.
can see what's going on, and they're not going to be using talkback, they want to use magnification.
Large text off. Switch.
Large text.
Double tap to select. High contrast text. Experimental off. Switch.
So I scroll up again with
Showing
two fingers.
Power button ends call off. Switch.
Now, if you want to use
Double
your
tap to
power
select.
key to end your call, you could do that. Now, I don't always suggest it because sometimes all you're trying to do is maybe you wanting to simply shut off your screen while you're on a call, and hitting the power would just end your call.
Auto rotate screen off. Switch.
So see, that's the one we don't want to turn this on.
Speak passwords off. Switch.
Now here we
Double
can
tap
turn
to
on
select.
those passwords
Checked.
so that next time if I come across a place that needs my password or needs my PIN, I wouldn't need a headphone in order to hear it. So here's where we turn that on in accessibility. So let's go
Showing
down.
items 9 to 17 of 17. Text to speech output.
Here is
Double
where we
tap to
go
select.
in to change our text-to-speech output.
Text to
Now,
speech out.
if
Showing
I-
items 1 to 6 of 6.
If I have other TTS engines, because you will be hearing words like TTS, that's text-to-speech, and that's what the TTS means. So
Google text to speech engine. Speech rate, speed at which the text is spoken.
because all I have here is Google Text-to-Speech, if I had imported my settings from my other phones, I would have had almost 20 different TTS engines here. I would have had the likes of Acapella, Vocalizer, Eloquence, TTS, Seraproc, and all of that. But I decided not to import my things from my other phones. So by default, all you'll have is the Google TTS. Now, if you want to change the Google TTS, the voice variant, Then
text-to-speech output. Preferred engine.
You find where it says preferred engine,
Google text-to-speech engine.
Then you move your finger to the right and find launch engine settings or settings.
Launch engine settings button. Settings.
When you tap on launch engine settings, here's what we have.
Language, use system language. Settings for Google text-to-speech engine.
I'm moving my finger
Double
down.
Tap to install voice data. Install the voice data required for speech synthesis.
This is where you go.
Google TTS voice data. Showing items 1 to 12 of 16.
So when you go in here, you see the different languages that you could choose the TTS for. So we're going to stick with the US English. So let's see what we have.
English, United Kingdom. English, India. English, English, United States. French, France. German, Germany. Hindi, India. Indonesian, Indonesia. Italian,
So
Italy.
you see there's all kinds of languages in here. I'm going to go up to
German, Germany.
English, United States.
Double French, France. English, United States.
Tap here.
English, United States, voices.
When
showing item 1 of 1.
When you tap here, it says voices showing 1 of 1.
Female, 8.4 megabytes.
And you tap here.
Female,
you know what? I think I'm not connected because it's not giving me the...
female, 8.4.
But normally when you tap here, because earlier I thought I heard something about Play Store error, so it means I wasn't connected to the Play Store. But naturally, if you tap here where it says female,
8.4 megabytes.
You tap there, then it will show you the different voices that you can choose from, the different voice variants. But right now,
Overview
we're
button.
not getting that. So
Back
I'm
button.
going to go back because this is not going to help
Back
us
button.
any.
Korean, South Korea.
I'm sorry.
Home, back button.
Back again.
Back button.
All right, there we go. This thing is not very responsive.
Home, back button.
Now,
Polish,
what I'm going to
back
do
button.
is I'm going to set my, there we go.
Settings for Google text-to-speech engine. Back button.
We go back again. I want us to go back to
Text-to-speech
accessibility.
output.
Okay, so we're back to accessibility.
Listen to an example. Play a short demonstration of speech synth. Back button. Color correction, off.
All
Showing
right.
navigate up button.
Then
Touch and hold delay, short. Display. Color inversion,
so
experimental.
all
phase
these
set.
things you find in the accessibility area.
Back button.
Let's go back
Settings.
here, and we're back to our settings. And then,
System. Date and time. Accessibility. Printing. About phone.
and about phone, when you go in here, it tells you about your phone, what
About
model
phone.
it is, and all of that.
System updates.
Or you could check for
Double
updates.
tap to status, phone number, signal, etc. Legal information. Model number, Moto G, 3rd generation. Hardware information. Android version, 6.0. Android security patch level, April 1st, 2017.
So I'm going to scroll up.
Baseband version, M89.
So that's
version.
about your phone
Back
there.
button.
Let's
Back
go
button.
back to the home
Build
key.
number,
And so
home button.
what happens
Home button.
here is that since we have all
Build
of
number,
this,
home button. Home button.
we can do whatever we want with the phone. You could always check for updates. Now, some phones would not let you get more than one updates, most especially if they are just like,
Home screen 1 of 1.
budget devices or things like that. And while others would give you 2 to 3 years of OS, the operation system updates, and others would just give you just 2. And so it depends. These are things that ones need to kind of really research when you're getting a phone, if those OS updates are important to you, and also if they're going to be supported, with security patches that come out every month, and some phone manufacturers will give those to you either quarterly or every 2 months, depending on who that person may be. So those are some of the things that we need to keep in mind when we are researching what phones to have. And if you don't have money, but you want to get something that is kind of not too expensive, then you could just go for what you think is not expensive and get that and call it good. So that will be the conclusion to the setting up of our phone. And you know what? We do have some interview that we had. And we had that interview with someone called Professor Paul
Lock screen.
Ruvolo, Ruvolo. And so we would like to bring that interview to you guys. But before we do that, hey, Austin or Dennis, you guys have any comments before we bring our guest in?
I would like to inform our users that the settings and the home screen on their phones may be arranged a little differently than what was shown. Also, I would like to tell them that if they increase the screen awake time, that will cause a little extra drain in the battery.
I'll also chime in here. If you're just using it yourself, there is a way you can dim the screen or put a screen curtain on, similar to, say you're coming from iOS, similar to iOS. And that can be found in the TalkBack settings. It says dim screen. You can turn it off just like you can in iOS. So you don't have to have the screen showing. Now, does that save you on battery? The answer to that is no. But it will give you the same thing that you have experienced on other platforms. And Android is very good at getting great battery life. And I would get the newest phone that I possibly can. If you can get one with Android 9, 10, or 11, that's going to be your best bet. And just get what you can within your budget. If your budget allows for a Pixel 4a, get that. I'm partial to Pixel devices. The 4a is a very good device at a very good price. It's less than the iPhone SE. It's $350, and who knows, your carrier might have a deal on it. Depending on what carrier you go through, you may be able to pay it in monthly bite-sized affordable payments that you can afford. So that's just food for thought.
And so now we want to welcome our special guest, Paul Ruvolo. And so, Paul, we want to welcome you to our podcast, and we are sincerely thankful to you for coming on here. We have with us the podcast crew. I'm Warren from the state of Washington. And guys, introduce yourselves to Paul.
I am Austin from Mumbai, India.
I'm Dennis. I'm from Pennsylvania. Welcome, Paul. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. Nice to meet you three.
And Paul, let's get to this. And we're talking about an app called the Clew, Clew. Is that the right pronunciation of the app, Paul?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And this is an iOS app, or like I like to call it, the Fruitvale. And I really like the app. It's something that I think blind people will appreciate. But Paul, I want you to take us to the history. I'm the historian, and I'm fascinated as to what led people or developers to developing such an app, and what the reasons are. Could you take us down the history of Clew?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think maybe I'll say just a little bit about my personal background to kind of set the stage for that. So
that's right.
So right now I'm a college professor. So I work at a small engineering college called Olin College of Engineering. We have it's all undergraduate. We have a total of 340 students at the college. So I started my job at Olin. I've been there. This is my 8th year at Olin. My background, so my PhD is in machine learning and robotics. And that was like the stuff I was really interested in when I was in graduate school at UC San Diego. And then I came to Boston to take this job at Olin College. And I had been, some ideas of ways in which the work I was doing in machine learning and robotics could play a role in assistive technology. It was an area that I'd always thought was, interesting. I never really had a chance to do anything kind of in that area. So I came to Olin. One of the things about Olin College is there's a big focus on user-centered design and trying to understand how we can, create things that people will really enjoy and really respond to them as whole people, and don't just try to create technology for technology's sake. So that combination of my sort of interest in doing something in assistive technology and sort of the focus on sort of design thinking that is a hallmark of Olin College, that kind of came together when I started at Olin, and that was sort of the impetus to kind of explore the area more. And so I started off at Olin. I was working on a lot of different projects, some of which related to assistive technology, some of which didn't. And I just found the more I worked in the area of sort of assistive technology, the more just sort of interested I got in the field. So I started, talking to a lot of folks in the community, especially in the blind community, and making contacts with a lot of the organizations around the Boston area. And I also have a lot of other colleagues, other faculty members that also work in different sort of facets of either assistive technology or disability studies, also, folks from different disciplinary backgrounds as well. And so just through that kind of accommodation, I've been working with students on various projects in this area for about 6 years now. And so we sort of started getting excited about the specific idea of Clew because, we had been talking to folks in the community, and we realized that the area of sort of orientation and mobility was an area where there were some tools available, but there were still a lot of areas where improvements could be made, and particularly things like indoor navigation and sort of finding objects in indoor environments. Those things kind of came to the front of our discussions with users, and we kind of started off, prototyping different versions of it. Having some success, but realizing a lot of the technologies we're working on were just really hard. It was really hard to get them to work well. And then I think the big moment was all of a sudden, mainstream like technology companies like Google and Apple started bringing out this sort of augmented reality capabilities to their apps. And that was what really kind of set the stage for the creation of Clew. And I can talk more about that specifically in a bit, but yeah, that's the kind of the main kind of, kind of like path that led me here. But yeah, I've just been doing more and more of my work in this area. I teach courses on accessibility and technology to students. I'm part of different organizations and accessibility. So it's really where my passion is in terms of my work that I do.
Awesome. Now, I know this is an iOS app. Are there plans for an Android app? And if so, do you have a rough time frame as when we could expect an Android app? Where does that stand?
Yeah, I think it would be a worthy thing to do. I don't have a specific plan for it right now. So I wouldn't be able to give a specific time frame. It's definitely something that's kind of been on the radar for a while. Yeah, and actually some of the early prototypes we did, we used to do a lot of our work with an older platform. Google has their AR Core, which is the one that sort of came out around the same time as ARKit on the iPhone. But an older platform we worked with called Project Tango, we used to work with that one. So we have done stuff with Android in the past. We just never done anything that made it all the way to a production level app.
Is that kind of the goal for 2021 to try to get an Android version out there, because there are blind Android users? I think that's a common myth that Android's not accessible, and that's
I totally agree with that. I think it is. Yeah, I think it is one of the goals definitely that we'd be working towards. But I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to commit to like a firm timeline on it. But that is something that definitely been thought about and is definitely part of the agenda.
Yeah, Paul, because I really like the app. I tried using it here at my home, a fairly large home, and I tried mapping my way from upstairs, going to the bathroom downstairs, and I was pleasantly surprised when it guided me back to my desk where I was sitting upstairs here. And then I tried doing it from the mailbox, or from my house to the mailbox, because we live in the rural area where the mailboxes are out there. So
right,
I was able to do that. And I'm like, this is what we really need, because the whole idea, for instance, if I have someone, say I'm at a hotel or at, a restaurant somewhere, hope we get back to going to restaurants again, and I ask maybe a family member, take me to the bathroom, I should be able to map my way to that bathroom and be able to find my way back to the table where I was. So I see the usefulness of this app as it becomes a very important part of our living. And I was so happy when that thing guided me back. And frankly, I would love to see that, come to Android. I know you've told me that you're not sure, but I'm an optimist, Paul, and I'm thinking that somehow down the line, you're going to bring this baby to those of us back in the land of Android.
Okay, well, this is definitely a good push in that direction for sure, this conversation. So that's definitely good.
Now, one other question that popped into mind. Is there a charge for this app? If so, what is the charge? Is it a subscription model? Is it a one-off?
This app is totally free. So I've been developing it basically with support from various foundations and granting agencies. So most notably, it's the Peabody Foundation, which is a Boston area foundation that gives money to projects that help with mostly oriented towards young people who have either disabilities or who have been injured severely. And then also the National Science Foundation. So that's what I've used to support the development of the app. So there's no cost that is incurred by the users of the app itself.
That's awesome. And I also want to echo Warren's sentiments that the sooner this is on both platforms, the better, because it will help people. It is an awesome app. It can definitely do a lot of good. I can see where it would be good for, granted, we're not doing a whole lot with conferences and things like that. But even if you're at a airport and you're at this terminal, you need to go to the restaurant down the hall, at the other end of the terminal, you could use it to map that.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there are a ton of use cases. And as we get back to some sense of hopefully normalcy, the use cases will skyrocket, hopefully, for this app. And the more platforms it's on for audience and the more recognition you can get, and hopefully within that, other people come and say, hey, I'll help you support the development of this app. And, it can just help you grow this thing even wider.
Yeah, that's definitely a great thought. Yeah, I think I would definitely hope for that, something along those lines.
And if you don't have it, and there's something you may want to consider, some kind of tip jar where people could donate as they could afford it.
Now, Paul, I want to dial back to something you mentioned earlier about assistive technology.
Sure.
Now, what drew you into assistive technology? Do you know any personally know any blind people, or honestly, have any relatives that are blind or something of that sort?
It's interesting. I actually don't have any personal connection at all. I think initially it was really like a feeling that I wanted. So I'd been working a lot on these robotics projects, but they were robotics projects that were not really things that were going to be immediately useful in the world. Like my thesis, I made a giant robotic baby, if you could believe that.
I love it.
It's a very terrifying robot, but I don't know. I was just really hungry to do something that made a difference. And so I think it was, I wouldn't say by accident that I sort of got into this area, but it was really sort of a way I could see there was something kind of in close proximity to what I was doing that I was like, okay, yes, I can make a difference in this way. And I think that was my initial attraction. And then I think what's kept me in the area is I think it's just such a multifaceted set of issues and problems, right? It's not just about technology. It's about, the way that social systems are set up, and it involves just so many different ways of thinking about things. And I think that's what's in part kept me really interested in been ways in which I've kind of grown over the years to understand different ways to kind of think about this area. So I don't know. I mean, I think that's been good. And then I think I have made a lot of connections and contacts with people in the community. So that's also been a key feature, I think, of growing my connection and commitment to the area. Boston has a lot of great, institutions for, there's Perkins and Carroll Center are here, and some other really great institutions that I've been working with over the years.
That's right. Now, Austin, you got any questions for Paul?
Paul, I don't have any iPhone or anything, but I have an iPad, which is running iPad OS. So will that app work on that also?
Yeah, it does. It works on iPad as well. And one thing that's nice about the app is it doesn't require any sort of internet connection. So even if you have don't have like a data plan or something for like an iPad, it will also work on that.
And that's the thing I wanted to mention, because, I am one of those that always want to try something offline. And I actually had put on my phone into airplane mode when I tried doing that, and it worked. Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was something I was going to mention, that this app would work whether you have internet connectivity or not. And it's such a good thing, because not everyone may have access to data, most especially places around the world where internet access is very expensive, or whatever the case may be. So it works offline. So that's really good.
Yeah, that's definitely nice. And then, we do have a pretty large amount of the users of the app are from outside of the United States as well. So it's a pretty big international group of folks using it.
Yeah, so really, we're thankful that you are able to come. And so, we're thankful, Paul, that you are able to come on and discuss this. And, I'm kind of looking forward to, maybe down the road, you could come back again, sometime this year, say maybe somewhere in, August or September.
Sure.
We would want to call on you again to see if there are any updates and what's going on. And maybe one of your students may take on the challenge of helping you, saying, hey, let's get this thing into the Android land. Or something like that. That would be cool.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. I'd love to do that.
One thing that will happen is, if Clew comes to Android, it'll really take off in India, because in India, there is a lot of need for mapping outside areas and indoor areas and things.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I know that India is a big Android market, is from what I understand, at least among the blind community. I think that's true.
It is very true. We have a large followership of Android in India, and just around the world in general, there are more Android users. So this is why we always cry about wanting developers to bring this, because Android devices are easier, are more accessible. I mean, affordable is the language or the word I'm trying to use. So when we do things like this, you are actually helping a lot of blind people, especially in third world countries where mobility is a challenge. And so really making this thing available on Android is a huge, huge help to the blind community.
That's really great to hear. Yeah. Okay. Well, definitely. Let's do something later on in the year. I'd love to do that.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, if it's before September and you have an update, get in touch with us. We'd have you on anytime. It has definitely been a pleasure, and I definitely do look forward to seeing this on Android. Hopefully
I'll be bugging Paul about it. So.
I mean, also you can contact us privately if you want people to test.
Okay.
I'd be more than willing to help test it.
Absolutely,
definitely, we will be.
Sure. Okay. Well, I look forward to the challenge for sure. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Paul. And we wouldn't take any more of your time than what we already have. And again, we thank you that you are able to have time to come on here to the Blind Android Users Podcast. And thanks again for coming on.
Okay, thanks, everybody. It was great to meet you all, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, Paul.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, thank you so much, Paul, for coming on to the podcast today. And we are so thankful that you have addressed our listeners today. And we look forward to having you come back, because, guys, we definitely want to have him come back. So the reason why, even though this thing is just on iOS or Fruitvale, there are many of our listeners that use both platforms. And so we're looking forward to having Paul come back, Professor Paul Ruvolo come back, and talk to us about it more, because now that we've kind of given him the challenge to kind of bring us some Android goodness to the app. So we thank Paul for his appearance. Austin, anything?
It was a fabulous interview, and I like that Paul has done something with artificial intelligence, and I hope he brings that more to Android. He put some artificial intelligence into his app, but it was a nice interview.
I'm hopeful. It'd be nice if we have something by summertime.
That's right. I don't think that we would, but I'm thinking maybe toward the end of the year, probably, or early next year. The probability is that probably we may have maybe an early thing. We'll see what happens. And my hope is that maybe one of his students may take this as a challenge, as a project, maybe like a project for their, end of year or whatever, and try to take on developing it for Android. Since it's a technical school, I'm kind of hoping that one of the students might. And, I think he should open it up to the students and see who can do that. And most especially if he's getting some funding from different sources like the, National Science Foundation or the Peabody.
All right, everybody. In addition to our special interview with Paul, we're going to wrap up this podcast by having our Android story of the week. And that is contributed to us this week by Tony Sohl. So, Tony, tell us your story.
Hi, my name is Tony Sohl. I had heard about Android way back. I'd heard about it, and most of the phones I had heard about that had accessibility were iPhones or the Nokia N95, Nokia N82. Yeah, that's all I heard about. My very first phone was the Nokia, but then when Tina and I got together, she had a Samsung Transform. I was playing with that at her house, and I was like, oh, wow. This is because the only experience I had was, messing with people, playing with an iPhone at a demonstration. I'm thinking, because I knew Apple was, you had to use iTunes, you had to be in their unit system, you couldn't plug and play, you couldn't share stuff. And I'm thinking, that's not for me. I came on the Sprint. My very first phone was a Motorola Photon. It was a slide-out phone with a touchscreen, but then it had a keyboard below it. Well, that lasted for about a month. It literally fell apart in my hand. The screen separated from the keyboard, snapped in two. A couple months. I was not eligible for an upgrade. Tina gave me her upgrade. I got a Samsung S3, I believe. Which was, I think it was running Ice Cream Sandwich. And I got a Bluetooth keyboard for it, a couple different ones, and started playing around with Android. I kind of hit the ground running with it, as they say. I picked it up and literally hit the ground running. At first, I wanted to throw it across the room. I was mad at it. After that, I got used to it. I had an S3. It felt like we were taking a capsule and it got left in a cab, so I had to get a replacement for that phone. Then I got an S5, I believe. The S5, and I believe that was running. I think it was running Marshmallow by then. I had that for quite some time. Then I got an S7. I had that for quite a while, and then we both upgraded we got the S8s. Tina got one, and then I got one like the next day after that. Had that for a while, or for quite some time, and then just as we were going to upgrade it, we got Android. Was it 9? I don't think we got Android 9 at the time. So we got the S10s, and then this year, last year actually, before the pandemic, I got a Pixel 3a XL, which at the time was running 10. I just got the upgrade for Android 11 around mid-October, November, and now I'm tossing around the idea of getting a Samsung S20 or a Pixel 5 or the Pixel 4. I haven't decided. The reason why I wanted Android is because I didn't want to fall in that trap of the Apple world, and every phone is Apple. I tried one, like I said in the beginning. I just wanted something that was more universal that I could share with everybody else. So, like if Tina had a number that we wanted to share, we could do that. Or if my dad had a number, somebody's contact he wanted to share, we could do that. So, I had several speech engines over the years. I've had Kendra. I've had Acapella. I got Eloquence when I got my S7, I believe. It was a gift. Tina got it for me as a gift. And I've had Vocalizer TTS. And then we've got some new ones that a friend told us about. But all in all, Android, I really like Android. It's worth it. There are times I get mad at it, but sometimes, we have to kind of work with it. And, it's like if you fall off a bike, you don't throw a bike across the pavement, you get back on. So, for those who are wanting to know about Android, it's pick one up and give it a try. Get the phone from your carrier. As I say, kick the tires, give it a spin. Sometimes you have 2 weeks, sometimes you have 90 days. Just really put it through its paces. And that's what I did with the S3. And once I got the Bluetooth keyboard, because I actually used mobile accessibility way back then. That was the screen reader I had. And then I had seen some demos of TalkBack. They were using Pico. And then when I got mobile accessibility, and a keyboard, I just took off with it. And Android has really come a long ways for accessibility. And it keeps growing. Every time they come out with new versions of Android, it just grows and grows. So that's my story of Android. And again, I really enjoy working with Android. And the only thing I would like to see more is more games for Android to come out. But otherwise, it's worth it. So thank you.
Of course, if you have any questions, you can subscribe to Blind Android Users plus subscribe at groups.io and ask your questions in our group and somebody will answer them. Or you can send an email to contact us at blindandroidusers.com and we will gather the questions and answer them on a future episode. I hope you enjoyed the interview. And we will see you next week.
Adios, my friends. And thank you so much for listening. And be sure to listen to our next week. It's going to be a special guest. I'm not going to mention who that person is, but somebody I respect. And so we'll be seeing that guy, next week.
Yes, I would like to thank our listeners for listening to us, staying tuned to our episodes. And just for your information, we have hit the 400 playback mark and we have achieved this within 20 days of starting this podcast. That is really very nice to see that the listeners are showing interest in basics of Android. And yes, next week is going to be a very interesting episode. So stay tuned and listen to the next episode. And you can also join our Telegram group. The link will be given in the show notes. So till then, bye for now.